arrested her on an immigration violation and sent her back to the U.S. Marshals to face a first-degree murder charge. But then last month, with a trial date looming, she allegedly faked an injury and ran away from Texas jail guards, with her allegedly picking her cuffs, ditching her striped jail pants, and making it about a mile before they recaptured her. And all of that now getting us to this point, with her murder trial now finally beginning. And the prosecution's opening statement laid out a bevy of damning evidence, saying that on the night of the murder, Wilson went swimming and got dinner with Strickland, who lied to Armstrong about his whereabouts. But reportedly, Wilson and Strickland had a brief fling in the past. It was unclear whether their recent relationship was purely platonic. But according to investigators, Armstrong had access to Strickland's iPhone text messages through his iPad and Mac laptop, with her also allegedly stalking Wilson's whereabouts through a GPS-linked fitness app for cyclists and runners. Right days before the murder, she even allegedly logged into his Gmail and Instagram accounts on her own phone. And on the night of the murder, a nearby security camera allegedly spotted Armstrong's vehicle stopping outside the friend's apartment, with the footage also allegedly picking up the sound of Wilson's terrified cries followed by 2 gunshots. But then, after 45 seconds of pure silence, the prosecutor claiming Armstrong put a third and final bullet through Wilson's heart, with the prosecutor adding the last thing Wilson did on this earth was scream in terror. But on the other side, you have Armstrong's defense attorney arguing in his opening statement that the prosecution's evidence is circumstantial, also arguing that the DNA and ballistics supposedly tying her to the crime scene are inaccurate and unscientific, and claiming that Armstrong went to Costa Rica not because she was fleeing, but because she was passionate about traveling, and that in the days following the shooting, weird things were happening at her home that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their safety. But like I said, that is now just underway. The trial is going to unfold over the next couple of weeks, but so far, not looking good for Armstrong, but we'll keep our eyes out for more details as they come. And then we've got interesting entertainment and tech news, because right now we're seeing Scarlett Johansson lawyering up against AI, but they're specifically taking legal action against an AI generator for using her likeness in an advertisement without permission. And that app in question being Lisa AI, 90s yearbook and avatar, which allows you to create avatars, turn text into art, and more. And with that, a 22-second ad was posted to Twitter, which started with a clip of Scarlett, which notably is real, and it was posted to Marvel Studios' Facebook page back in 2020.
What's up, guys? It's Scarlett, and I want you to come with me.
But then, according to Variety, the ad cuts away from that clip and shows a bunch of graphics and AI-generated photos resembling her, all while an AI version of her voice explains all the features of the app. Now, reportedly, that ad has since been removed. Variety reviewed the clip and noted that it had a disclaimer reading, "Images produced by Lisa AI. It has nothing to do with this person." But Scarlett is calling bullshit here, with her reps confirming to Variety that she is not a spokesman for Lisa AI, and her lawyer adding, "We do not take these things lightly. Per our usual course of action in these circumstances, we will deal with it with all legal remedies that we will have," which really is like vague lawyer speak for, you better get ready to bend over and take it. But also notably, she's not the only one here. This is the continuing of a trend. I mean, we've seen Tom Hanks previously call out a dental ad using an AI version of him. Also, MrBeast slamming an AI ad of him that showed up on TikTok offering cheap iPhones. Him even asking on Twitter, are social media platforms ready to handle the rise of AI deepfakes? Saying this is a serious problem. With this, some noting this is one of the reasons why SAG's on strike right now, with Variety's chief correspondent also explaining on Twitter, not the first time ScarJo has set a precedent in Hollywood through legal action. And no mistake, while SAG is fighting for AI protections, when you're paid millions by brands for your name and likeness, AI is a major threat to celebs. This will be one of many lawsuits, just wait. And then, welcome to your brand new favorite segment, 37-year-old white guy talks about equity and on-screen representation. Found the tune right there at the end. But this is in the news right now because Jenna Ortega opened up about on-screen representation in a new profile with Harper's Bazaar. She is of Mexican and Puerto Rican descent. She actually began acting as a child, but they're saying that all the way back since then, it's been much harder for her to land roles. And with that, explaining that she was usually either auditioning to be someone's daughter or the younger version of someone. But, quote, there were just not many leading Hispanic actors who I could be that for. So a lot of the jobs I was going for growing up would never work out because I didn't look a certain way. That was really hard to hear, that something you couldn't change was what was preventing you from succeeding. And with that, saying there were times she just wanted to dye her hair blonde, but now going through that made her realize just how important it is to not change herself. Saying, I don't want other young girls to look up at the screen and feel like they have to change their appearance to be deemed beautiful or worthy. But then also saying, like, even amid her desire to be that role model, to be that representation, she also sometimes questions herself, pointing to the fact that there is a lot of discourse about what it means to truly be Latina. Saying, I wasn't born in a Spanish-speaking country, I haven't spent a lot of time in Mexico, and I've never been to Puerto Rico. So there's a feeling of not being worthy enough to be a proper representative. But then with that, saying she still feels she has the power to move things. Commenting, I want all people of Latin descent to be able to see themselves on screen. I want to feel that I could open doors for other people. You know, the timing of her comments here are actually incredibly relevant because, as you might have seen, diversity has become a hot button issue in Hollywood for years. But also recently, regarding Latino representation, a report from the Latino Donor Collaborative showed that growth is actually lagging right now. Noting that back in 2021, 2.9% of TV leads were Latino, but in 2022, that dropped to 2.6%. But notably, so far this year, it's up to 3.3%, but TV, of course, is only one medium where representation is fluctuating. Or when it comes to film, they reported Latinos made up 7.4% of leading roles in 2021, but in 2022, that went down to 5.1%. And then even though this year that's been bumped up to 5.7%, you have people noting that still lags way behind the general population in the States, with census data actually showing that Hispanic and Latino people make up 19% of the U.S. population. And so with that, the report report also found that a lot of Latino youth are turning to social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok where they feel more represented. And, with this, one, I understand this is just kind of like one aspect of the much larger conversation, but I did find it incredibly interesting because as part of like the hot button issues, of course, one of the narratives out there is that Hollywood just does so fucking much, sometimes too much, to try to force diversity. Then when you actually look at the numbers as a whole, it appears to show otherwise. It's just that maybe, I guess, the incredibly blatant things skew people's views. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, but I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here? And with that, let me know your background. Do not worry. I'm not making lists. I just know with this story, it's going to hit different people's ears differently. And then y'all know, because I used to complain about it a lot, how important sleep is to me. And comfort has a lot to do with a good night's sleep. But also, is there such a thing as going over and beyond in comfort? Because if it is, Cozy Earth has done just that. I mean, I'm talking about the best bedding you've ever had. So thank you, Cozy Earth, for being a fantastic sponsor of the PDS. And I'm not kidding. Cozy Earth gives you the softest, most luxurious feeling fabric guaranteed. And yes, guaranteed. If you do not love Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, you have 100 days to get your money back. But I genuinely cannot imagine you not loving these. I mean, I was so impressed I gave their joggers and hoodies a try, and they feel as soft and cozy as the sheets. And get this, both Cozy Earth apparel and sheets are naturally temperature regulating and moisture wicking, so you'll stay more comfortable year round. And from someone who runs hot, that is a great selling point. Cozy Earth also prides themselves on the ethical production of all of their products, and the durable fabric doesn't pill even after continual washing and drying. They just keep getting softer and better with every wash. And fantastically, right now you can save up to 40% off at Cozy Earth. But you gotta hurry because the offer ends soon. So go to cozyearth.com/DeFranco and enter DeFranco at checkout to save up to 40%. That's cozyearth.com/DeFranco, cozyearth.com/DeFranco. And then this is incredibly troubling. A record number of students in New York City public schools were homeless last year. That was just revealed in newly released data that includes kids who live at shelters, hotels, the homes of their relatives, and other impermanent places. And specifically, according to the statistics, a whopping 119,320 kids in the school system were unhoused. Which, to frame that for you, that means that around 1 in every 9 New York City students are considered homeless. And understand, those numbers are even higher in certain parts of the city. Like in one section of the Bronx, like this is where I was born and raised, more than 1 in 5, 22% of students are experiencing homelessness. That's horrifying. I mean, to frame this another way, the population of homeless students in New York City is now bigger than Philadelphia's entire traditional public school system. And horrifyingly, it seems like those numbers are only growing. Just since last summer, city schools enrolled over 30,000 new students who are living in temporary housing, including around 12,000 more in the last 5 months who weren't listed in the new data. So of course, one of the questions here is what's driving these historic numbers? And there we see experts saying the increase is largely due to the influx of migrant children who have been seeking asylum in the city. Right, and as we've talked about before, New York is currently sheltering record numbers of people each week as it continues to receive a massive influx of migrants from all over the world. Notably, most are families with school-aged kids. And so this new data on homeless students just adds another flashpoint in that crisis, especially because the city either doesn't have or isn't providing adequate resources. And with this, we've seen several school leaders speaking to the New York Times on the condition of anonymity, telling the outlet that the system isn't doing enough to support them. Also beyond that, the city has only hired around 100 staff members to help migrant families that live in shelters with school issues, which definitely is not enough people to help nearly 120,000 students. And according to the Times, dozens of emergency shelters have since opened without new hires from the education department. Meanwhile, it's being reported that the city only has 1 bilingual social worker for every 560 students learning English. And all of that is especially concerning because homeless students are much more likely to drop out or miss school. And what's more, some educators are worried that the city is on the verge of seeing a major mental health crisis for migrant kids, many of whom have already experienced insane traumas just getting to the U.S. and continue to face isolation and lack of resources. But ultimately, that is where we are, and we'll have to wait to see what happens. But, of course, I'd love to know everyone's thoughts here, but also especially if you are a teacher or a student or you have kids that are students in New York, what have you seen? And then, so let's talk about the House of Representatives. So, of course, there is a new House Speaker. We gave you some insight there yesterday. And sure, we're just weeks away from another full-blown government shutdown threat, but also other things are happening. Like yesterday, we saw the second attempt to expel Representative George Santos from the House. And again, it failed. Now, notably, this effort was actually brought by Santos's fellow Republican colleagues representing New York, with them seeking to oust Santos because, all the insane lies and the federal charges against him. But even though it was introduced by some Republicans, that motion ultimately failed, and by a pretty big bipartisan margin, with just 24 Republicans voting to expel Santos while 182 voted against. And while 155 Democrats voted in favor, 31 members actually broke with their party and opposed the measure. Right, and the opposition we saw to the ousting was largely due to the fact that many members were concerned that expelling Santos before he was actually convicted convicted of a crime would set a bad precedent for the chamber. But also, notably, that wasn't the only potential disciplinary action the House voted on yesterday, with the chamber also taking up the motion to formally reprimand Representative Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian-American member, for her comments and actions regarding the Israel-Gaza war. Notably, the motion, which was brought by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, aimed to censure Tlaib, which is a formal condemnation usually saved only for major violations of House behavioral codes, and Greene bringing the